This is Jeff Davis with the Alignment Podcast, where we explore sales and marketing alignment strategy for B2B businesses. Make sure to visit jeffdavis2.com for all things alignment. Now let's talk about how to create togetherness.
Today's guest is Peter Isaacson. Peter is a senior executive with over 25 years of marketing experience. He's currently the CMO at Demandbase and has also worked for companies such as Castlight Health, MicroStrategy, and Adobe. Peter keeps a consistent focus on tying marketing strategies to revenue and business results. In our conversation, we discuss the head of marketing's role in aligning sales and marketing, the questions marketing leaders should be asking their sales counterpart to build a more aligned partnership, how tech has allowed us to scale our knowledge of customer insights, and how ABM can be an effective strategy for companies of all sizes to close more business with their ideal customers. With that said, let's jump into the episode.
Peter, thank you for joining the program today.
Jeff, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's always good to connect with a marketing leader such as yourself to get your perspective on how you look at aligning with your colleagues and just aligning in general to really approach the modern buyer in a way that really gets their attention and meets their needs. But before we dive into our conversation, I definitely want to speak with you about personalization, data, revenue funnel, and also some ABM strategies and tactics for folks that are listening. Tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, and then we'll get into our conversation about sales and marketing alignment.
Sure. Peter Isaacson. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Demandbase. I've been in this role for about 4.5, coming up on 5 years. So in terms of CMO longevity, I've beat the odds, I think. I've been a head of marketing CMO for the past probably 10 years. Had multiple roles at Adobe before moving into head of marketing at MicroStrategy, then CMO position at a healthcare IT company called Castlight Health. We were actually customers of Demandbase at Castlight, and that introduced me to the technology Demandbase and the CEO. We got along famously. I love the opportunity. I love the technology. I love the company, and came over here, again, 4.5, 5 years ago to become CMO.
Nice. So when you look at sales and marketing alignment, what do you feel is today's role for the CMO in moving this alignment effort forward?
Yeah, I mean, sales and marketing alignment in a B2B company is just so critical, and quite honestly, it's been a point of friction or failure for so many companies for so long. But I do think that's changing for a couple of reasons. But I think the role of the CMO is to first model the behavior. You can't advocate sales and marketing alignment across your team and then disparage the sales leader behind their back, or just clearly have poor communication or non-existent communication or misaligned goals or things with your sales counterpart. So I think just modeling the behavior and the alignment that you want to see across the organization is kind of job one. I think the second most important thing that a CMO needs to do is to align your goals. Part of the friction that has existed for so many years between sales and marketing has been the fact that, sales is focused on generating pipeline and closing deals and having high quality conversations that put them in a position to make their number. And for too long, marketers thought that their job was just generating a high volume of MQLs, marketing qualified leads, throwing them over the fence, and wishing the sales team good luck. And that just created wars over the number of leads and the quality of leads, and what marketing was actually doing and whether they were doing it well. And setting goals on things like, marketing's not going to be measured on just like quantity of leads. We're going to measure ourselves based on pipeline and pipeline opportunity and close rates and funnel velocity and overall bookings. Then marketers get skin in the game and actually start having the same types of goals as their sales counterparts have. And once sales and marketing feel aligned on their goals, the alignment over execution and behavior becomes far easier.
And you hit on something that I had a conversation not too long ago. I did a keynote and I had a marketing leader come up to me and she said, Jeff, I completely agree with what you're saying. I love the way you make me think differently. But I've been in marketing my whole career. And even though I want to work with sales, I don't know how to. What would you say to a marketing leader? Because I do think that this is becoming more and more prevalent of I'm convinced that we should work together, but I've never had a sales role. How do I even start to engage with my sales leader?
So it's a great question. I think a lot of marketers do struggle with this. I think in a lot of companies, marketing is just so segmented or so kind of cut off from sales that having a conversation with a salesperson becomes, almost novel, and in some cases actually nerve-wracking because you're almost speaking different languages. So the most important thing is to actually have regular communication with your sales team and really ask them questions about what are their challenges. Like, speak their language though about okay, what's your quota? Like, what are you trying to get to this year? And what do you think the key barriers are that are going to prevent you from making your number? And how many companies, how many accounts do you have to close in order to make that number? And what would you want from the rest of the company to support you to help you make that number? Once you start asking questions about that, about things that they really care about and their own personal success, then suddenly the walls go down and they can actually start communicating to you about well, gosh, I'd love to see this. I'd love to see that. I'd love to have and then you can have a real conversation about, well, let's prioritize some of the things that you want. And let me tell you about some of the things that we're doing that I think can help you actually make that number. And so it really just starts with kind of having that communication and making it part of a regular cadence.
I like that because we keep hearing this notion about really managing the revenue funnel, right? So from end to end. And I love the fact that you're talking about you have to start a relationship first before you can jump in and start to develop kind of this revenue funnel strategy. Speaking of that, let's transition into data. How can a marketing organization that may not be as data insights driven start that process? Because we hear time and time again, and I preach it in my work, that for any alignment effort to be successful long term, it has to be founded in and rooted in data. What are your thoughts about transitioning your organization as a head of marketing to being more data driven?
Yeah, I mean, data, there are all kinds of analogies. People call it the lifeblood, the oil that lubricates everything, whatever your choice and analogy. Having data and a data strategy is fundamental to any marketer's position. Certainly B2B is no different. But first, you got to figure out where are we focused? Are we focused on expanding our contact database at an individual level? If you're taking an ABM approach, then you're really focused on kind of, do you have the right data for the right accounts that are going to make the biggest impact on your business? Once you start kind of building out just kind of, your contact data and expanding your footprint within those key accounts that you're actually identifying and chasing along with your sales team, well, then you can start actually developing the insights around those accounts that are going to make marketing more personalized, but also your sales conversations more effective. And there are a few ways at getting at that. In the old days, it used to be with a pick and shovel, trying to, really just do comprehensive research online to understand the company and what their annual report says and what their core company objectives are, and things like that. The massive strides that we've made around AI and machine learning, and the cost of computing going down so significantly, so that those types of solutions are actually quite affordable, give you the potential to actually scale your insight development. So you're getting actual real intent data that shows not just what companies are doing on your site and whether they're registering for webinars, but actually data on what they're doing off your site, like what they're researching, what keywords, what topics they're actually interested in that connect back to your value proposition. So I guess the short story is, once you actually identify those accounts that are important to you, you can actually scale your insight development based on technology, which is, a fundamental change that's happened in the market really over the past couple of years.
And focusing on the intent data, I think there's a wealth of data jokingly within the marketing silo. How do we leverage that data and give it to sales in a way that is actionable? Because I think, innately, whether or not you leverage your data or not, there's so much data we're getting from webinars and content and whatnot. How, as a marketing leader, do you look at serving that data up so that sales can make better decisions and have better conversations?
Yeah, so I think, quite honestly, both sides struggle with data and intent and quite honestly, just insights kind of writ large. I kind of joke that, the worst thing that a marketer can get is just a sack full of insights, just kind of randomly on an Excel spreadsheet or any type of document like that, because we just don't know what to do with it. And it's the same thing with sales. If you're, sending over a document that has insights written, it's just a cumbersome process. So for sales to be useful, you gotta deliver those insights where they live. And for a lot of, for all companies, that's in B2B, that's a CRM system. For a lot, that's, their Salesforce instance. So actually delivering your insights into the platform that they are in every day, multiple times a day, is really the only way that you're going to be delivering kind of consistently the insights in a place that they're going to be able to consume them. Salesforce already has some insights into the business, and certainly gives you kind of understanding of, last conversations with them and last, pitches that you've made and what products they might have if they're a customer, things like that. But augmenting that with true insights into their behavior on your website, and again, offline, off of their website, and understanding kind of what they're researching, bringing that together all within their Salesforce instance is really the only way you can deliver meaningful insights to your sales team. That's something that we've worked really hard at Demandbase in providing.
And I had a great conversation. I don't know if you know Trish Bertuzzi or not, but so we had a great conversation, and she talked about trying to get her clients to stop, and I may be paraphrasing what she said, but to stop sending out spam. She used to call it a spam cannon, I believe. And so really kind of dovetails well into this idea of how do we personalize our outreach? How do we personalize our content? Because I do agree with her that you're getting all of these inbound requests and they are very canned. And I know that Demandbase does a lot around personalization. Help us how you personalize at scale realistically for a leader. Someone that says, I know that we need to do this, but besides doing a one-off sort of thing, how do I do this at scale?
Sure. I mean, the first thing we do is actually segment our target account list, quite honestly, because we've got, the classic pyramid. We've got strategic accounts, which are, it's probably a total of 50 accounts at the very top that are the big elephants that we're chasing and that are going to drive an outsized portion of our revenue. We've got a kind of a middle tier, which is a few hundred accounts, and then we've got a bottom tier, which is 2,000 or 3,000 accounts. And we treat each one of those tiers differently in terms of the tactics that we provide. I think what's common across all of them is, because you can scale account-based advertising and customize that based on the size of the company, based on the industry of the company, based on the regulatory environment that the company is engaged with, based on the sales stage that the company's in, there's lots of different kind of filters that you can customize your communications with them to. And so with account-based advertising, you truly can scale your customization, even personalization to those accounts. Second way we do it at scale is just by personalizing the web experience, again, based on company size or industry or regulatory environment or something specific about the challenges of that account, and you can actually personalize in real time your website experience even the first time that they come to your website. But as we get into some of our strategic accounts, we'll be doing all of that, the account-based advertising and personalizing that and website personalization on our site. But we'll start augmenting that with, maybe customer dinners, specifically targeting a strategic account, or doing a direct mail piece, quite honestly, that actually is specific to the individual that we are targeting within an account that we know will be a meaningful kind of gift to that individual. So there's levels of personalization, levels of customization that you can make, and different levels of scalability along the way, depending on how you segment your target accounts.
Nice. So one last topic that I want to make sure that we touch on with our time together, because I'm really passionate about this. I talk about this in my keynotes. I also talk about this when I'm working with clients, is the idea that ABM is really important. I get pushback from SMBs, so small to medium-sized businesses or businesses that are not enterprise, and say, we can't afford, we don't have the resources to do ABM. I advocate that it's a great way not only to service those strategic accounts that are important to you, but also a way to help the alignment relationship between sales and marketing. How would you talk to a sales and marketing leader within a small organization about ABM?
Sure. I think that ABM is all about focus. And the one thing that a smaller company absolutely needs to do in order to survive is focus. So I think actually smaller companies are ideally suited to begin an ABM program because they need to focus. If they're going after anyone who knocks on the door, then they're going to be wasting time on customers that are either going to have low deal cycles, low close rates, long purchase cycles, or just bad fits that are going to not renew at the end of the next year. So all of those are kind of poison to any company that's just starting up. But a small business, just they need to identify like who is their ideal customer profile and be tenacious at applying that ideal customer profile to the exact number of discrete accounts that they should be going after. So I think it's ideally suited for them. Now, that doesn't mean that, okay, now you're going to spend $300,000 on an advertising campaign, but there are lots of things that you can do with a more targeted approach, even using advertising or website personalization, to actually go after that discrete list of accounts that are going to make your number this year and next year.
And would you base your criteria on choosing those accounts on ROI, on potential revenue, on size? What are those couple factors to help somebody in that position kind of get started of, whittling it down to a list that is manageable? Because it does take time and resources, so you can't apply ABM to all of your accounts. But what have you seen as criteria that actually is indicative of success?
Well, I think what's great about just how quickly innovation has happened within B2B, even around selecting the right accounts, is that now, without spending a ton of money, there are, and Demandbase is one of them, but there are others. You can actually, it's a combination of lookalike modeling, right? Who have we sold to before? Let's get that profile and sell to them again. Predictive, meaning who has certain traits that actually our value proposition should connect with, and then layering in a level of intent to that, like who are the accounts that are actually starting to show signals of interest in our company or the value proposition that we have. And I think the best target account lists actually combine those all together. And again, this comes back to using data to actually, and technology to actually identify those target accounts. But combining those together create the most powerful target account list that sales and marketing can align against and go chase.
Nice. Well, Peter, I always love having CMOs like yourself come in. You guys are always insightful and help us think about it in a really succinct and clear way. Love the fact we got to talk and touch on the importance of data and leveraging both on the sales and marketing side, obviously personalization and that being more and more important as we kind of start to get a little resistant to tech and the spam that a lot of folks are sending out. And then last but not least, the fact that smaller organizations, our SMB friends, can indeed and should be executing ABM for those accounts that make sense. So again, thank you for your time and expertise and looking forward to following you, Demandbase, and having you potentially on the show again.
Jeff, thank you for having me on. I love your podcast, so I'm thrilled to be able to participate in it.
Thanks for listening to the episode. Don't forget to visit me at jeffdavis2.com and follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Davis2. Did today's conversation resonate with you? Then share with your colleagues to help the Alignment Podcast grow. Join us for the next episode where we continue to talk about how to create togetherness.